Hey guys, I thought I would redo a couple of the problems from class in case there was something you wanted to kind of watch again, in case you're having a little trouble with the homework. And well, obviously, if you weren't here, this will definitely help you because we had some people that were out today. So the first question here on the back of the first page was to find the coordinates of points U and V, which made up this mid-segment. So we actually have a mid-segment right here, and points U and V are the endpoints of that segment. I know because it's on a graph, you can sort of just basically count. You can figure out the x and the y, but let's just pretend we didn't do that, or maybe it's somewhere in between. We don't want to really assume. So the way to figure that out would be to understand what a midsegment actually is. And what we said from our vocab notes was that a midsegment is literally the segment that connects two midpoints of the sides of a triangle, of two sides of a triangle. So in this particular example, they used these two sides. They could have used any two sides, and we need to find those coordinates. Well, to find the coordinates of a midpoint, we have a formula. Okay, so on the front, if you got this same handout, if not, just take a quick little, take a minute to jot these down. You've got slope formula, we've got distance formula, and we have midpoint formula. We're going to use the midpoint formula. Okay, because by definition, the endpoints are actually midpoints. So the midpoints are U. So U is going to be our first midpoint, and that's going to be x1 plus x2. So negative 4 plus 2 divided by 2. And let me just adjust the camera a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. Negative 4 plus 2 divided by 2. And then it's going to be 7 plus negative 1 divided by 2. And let's see if I can get a better angle on that. Okay. Sorry, I just want to make sure you can see it a little better. Okay. So that's going to be negative 4 plus 2, obviously, is negative 2 divided by 2. And then 7 minus 1 is 6 divided by 2, which becomes negative 1, 3. Let's see if that actually makes sense based on where we thought it was going to be. Negative 1, positive 3 makes sense for U. Okay? So the coordinates of U would be at negative 1, 3. The coordinates of V, same idea. Right? 4 plus 2 divided by 2. Remember, this is just straight from the formula, midpoint formula. 5 plus negative 1 divided by 2, and that's going to be 3. And 4 over 2 is 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 makes sense. There's our coordinates for U and V. Then it says something about UV and MN being parallel. Well, if you were here, you already knew that. If you weren't here, that was one of the things we figured out, was that UV, the mid-segment, is always going to be parallel to one of the sides of the triangle. Well, it's obviously not parallel to the sides that it's attached to, so it's got to be parallel to the other side. But to show that, we used slope. Okay, so we actually found the slope of UV and we found the slope of MN. And again, if you were here, you already know this, but the slopes ended up being the same. Okay, so that's what we need to show. If they're telling us to show these lines are parallel, we can't just say, oh, look at the picture, they never touch. Right? That's not good enough. We need to actually calculate slope. So the slope of UV is going to equal, actually, I should use the line symbol there so you don't think it's the measure. So the slope of line UV, which is contained, which the segment is contained in, is going to be our slope formula for, let's see, UV. We just got our coordinates right here, right? So 2 minus 3 over 3 minus negative 1 equals negative 1 over 4. So the slope of UB is negative 1/4, which kind of makes sense, right? This looks like it's just slightly going down here. And now we got to figure out the slope of MN, and if we do it right, I think we should get the same thing. So MN, this is going to be 5 minus 7 over 4 minus negative 4. 4 minus negative 4. So 5 minus 7 is negative 2. 4 minus negative 4 is the same as 4 plus 4. That's 8. And at first glance, you're like, oh no, they're different. But this can be simplified, which we should always do. That's negative 1/4. The slopes are the same. Okay, so these two lines are parallel, or UV is parallel to MN because they have the same slope. That's how you would show that. And last but not least, now they're telling us, excuse me, to show that UV is half of MN. That was one of our other properties for a midsegment. The midsegment was always parallel to that one side, and it was also half its length. So if I can find the length of UV and I can find the length of MN, well, this should be exactly half of that. So let's figure it out. UV, of course, This time, if I'm going to try to find the length, I need to find the distance between u and v, so I need the distance formula. So the distance between u and v, so here's the first point, u and v, 2 minus 3 squared plus 3 minus negative 1 squared. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. If I square it, that's positive 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. Squared is 16. So I get the square root of 17. Whatever that is, a little over 4. Okay, we'll get that in a second. UV. So now MN is going to be 5 minus 7 squared plus 4 minus negative 4 squared, which is negative 2 squared is 4. 8 squared is 64, and this is the square root of 68. Okay, at first glance, I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, uh-oh, you know, if I divide 68 by 2, I'm not getting 17. But remember, this isn't 68. This isn't 17. This is the square root of 68. This is the square root of 17. It's totally different. You got to actually put that in your calculator and check the actual values. For those of you in the honors class, you'll probably be able to do the simplified version of this using simplest radical form. But for the purpose of the video, I'll just do the calculator version because it still gets the point across. So square root of 68 is approximately, let's see, it's got to be a little over 8, right? 8 squared is 64. So I'm guessing it's got to be around 8.2 or somewhere around there. Okay, you can check it on your calculator just to be sure. Square root of 17, well, 4 squared is 16, so it's a little over 4. It's probably around 4.1. All right, again, you pull out a calculator, you put this, you double it, you will get exactly this, square root of 68, whatever that is. Okay? So we did all three things here that involve the midsegment. Midsegment is made up of midpoints. There's our first part. Midsegment is parallel to one side of the triangle. That's showing that they have the same slope. And the midsegment is always half the length of that other side, the one that it's parallel to, which we just showed using the distance formula. That's pretty much everything you need to do with the formulas. Okay? I will make a separate video for the other types of problems since this one went a little longer than I expected. And if you have any questions on this, just let me know. Okay? See you later.